Hello, welcome back. Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I thought I would just do a little fun chatty type video talking about some makeup brands that have kind of fallen off the map. And I mean mostly in the YouTube community. I think these brands are still thriving. I think they're successful. It's just you don't really hear them talked about on YouTube very much or Instagram. But a few years ago, or even longer than that, these brands got a lot of hype where I feel like now, we're hearing a lot about Anastasia, Colourpop, indie brands, which is great. But these used to be quite popular and now they're not so much anymore. And I thought, I would try to speculate maybe why. So I just thought this would be fun and let's just get into it. First up is NYX. And I love their butter glosses, but I gotta say, this brand, I think the reason they're getting less hype than they used to is because their products are inconsistent. I love these. I have the Ultimate Brights palette. That is quite good, but it is a bit sheer, takes a lot of building. But some other eyeshadows I've tried from them, so-so. And I've tried foundations from them. One in particular I really did not like. I think that is the reason. Also, because there are so many drugstore brands right now that are just killing it with quality compared to Sephora. Milani is one. I mean, when I use my Milani products, it feels luxurious and it's so good. There's very few duds. Therefore, I kind of feel like NYX has fallen off the map, partly because the rest of the drugstore really stepped up their game. Next up is Stila, and the one product I have from them is one of these Stila glitters, and this is a very popular item from them. You hear people talk about these glitter and glow shadows all day, every day on YouTube and Instagram. However, I don't hear much else about any other Stila products. I remember the day when Stila Kitten was one of the most popular eyeshadows. And even their palettes were very popular. They had those convertible colors, like cream blush type things. I don't know. I think, the few things I've tried from Stila, I do like. My guess is that they are not releasing things at the pace that other brands are. And I think, that is something that Norvina from Anastasia said recently, that they increased the rapidity of their releases because they felt that there was a demand for it and people really wanted that. And it does seem like a lot of people are buying. Therefore, if you're a brand that is not releasing things left and right, then you may get left to the wayside, which my guess is that's the issue with Stila. I mean, obviously they have those glitter and glow shadows. Those are quite popular, but sadly, I don't hear about much else from them. Next up is Smashbox, and this also was very popular when I first started watching YouTube like 10 years ago. Their primer is still really popular, and they have several primers that I hear people talk a lot about, but that's kind of about it. I really like their liquid lipsticks. I've heard a few people talk about those, but their eyeshadows, not hearing a whole lot about that. With Smashbox, I do think that it's kind of similar to Stila where they're not releasing a lot of new things, but also I feel like they're not really improving the products that they have. I've watched a lot of reviews on those little cover shot palettes by Smashbox, and a lot of people say that those are very mediocre. And I think that if Smashbox kind of updated things, got a few new formulas, I think that would take them a long way. I think their primers are great, but their other products are not that impressive. So I think that they maybe should reformulate a couple of things. I'm sure everybody knows this palette. This is the Loreal Pro, at least what started it all for Loreal in the YouTube community, because when this palette came out, everybody was talking about it and people still talked about this palette for years. And then they released all those Mega Pro palettes and so on and so forth. And people were constantly buying those, reviewing them, and they were a really big deal. But I feel like in the last 1 to 2 years, you just don't hear about them a whole lot. I'm not sure why. This one, I'm not completely sure. Again, they don't release a whole lot, which to me, that seems why the brands that are doing well are constantly releasing new products, keeping everybody interested. Loreal does not release a lot, but they have released several palettes this year that I've only heard a few people that I watch talk about, and they seem to be great palettes. That's what's kind of odd, is that the few people I see review their products do talk about how high quality it is. Maybe again, it's just they're not changing things up enough. I'm not totally sure on this one either, but I think again, it's another combination of maybe not releasing enough or not doing anything too new or exciting. Next brand, The Balm. I hate to say it because this used to be one of my favorite brands. I very recently repurchased Mary Luminizer, and wow, is this an amazing highlighter. I forgot how amazing it is. I don't have any of their other products anymore because I had them quite a while ago and I just felt like they had gotten old, so I did declutter them a couple of years ago. But I gotta say, I loved everything I had. I had a couple of blushes and an eyeshadow palette. I think that they were quite nice. Again, I think it's perhaps that maybe they haven't updated much, although they have a really nice aesthetic. You know, these kind of old school photos. It's very cute and I like that, so I don't think they should change their brand. Another reason perhaps that some of these brands are not getting a lot of hype, at least on social media, I'm not sure, but maybe it's because they're not sending out a lot of PR. I've seen a few people who have gotten PR from The Balm, but it does seem like the brands that get talked about are the ones that give out a lot of PR and the influencers are talking about them. Colourpop, they're always sending out huge PR boxes to a lot of the bigger beauty YouTubers and even people that they're not in the 1 millions by any means. Also Anastasia, and I've seen Anastasia send PR to some smaller influencers as well. That could be part of it, I think, for a lot of these brands, is that sometimes we end up hearing about and buying the products that are being sent to influencers and they're the ones telling us about it, therefore we're buying it. Next up is Violet Voss, and this was an indie brand. It still could be an indie brand, but they are in Sephora now, so they're a larger company. They were so popular when that Holy Grail palette came out. This was several years ago, I think 4 or 5 years ago. And then they had that collaboration with Loreal. Those palettes were so popular, people were just crying to get them. They kept going out of stock. It was nuts. Those were so hyped up. I wanted them. I couldn't get them. Oddly enough though, now that they're in Sephora, they're not just online only. I don't hear much about them anymore. I will say I did buy one of those smaller palettes they've released and I didn't think the quality was very good. Perhaps that could be part of it. I really find it unusual that a brand would start out very small, online only, and get a lot of hype, and then go into Sephora and people stop talking about them. Perhaps it was, the intrigue of that it was a smaller indie brand. Who knows? This one seems pretty interesting. Like I said, that was the only palette I had, and I did not think the quality was great, but people used to rave about their palettes a few years ago. I'm guessing maybe they were better then. I'm not totally sure. If you've tried more of their recent palettes, do let us know because I'm curious. Last up is Coastal Scents, and if you guys were watching YouTube like 8-9 years ago like I was, you would remember those 88 pan palettes. Everybody had them from Coastal Scents. They had some that were not 88, but some that were, 50, 40, very, very large palettes. They were making huge palettes before Morphe was, and everybody was talking about them. They were so cheap, $10 or $12. I had one and I finished multiple eyeshadows in there. I first got into makeup right when I kind of graduated from college, so I didn't have a ton of money. Coastal Scents was perfect. I loved those palettes. Those type of larger palettes are definitely not very popular anymore, but they do have the hot pots, which I do sometimes still hear people talk about, but not so much ever since other brands came out with single eyeshadows. More and more brands such as indie brands and Colourpop came out with single eyeshadows. That's kind of when I heard people stop talking about even the hot pots. Personally, I love the hot pots from Coastal Scents. I've tried a few that were duds, but most of them are great. They have increased the price on those. I think they're around $3. I think they used to be about $1.50, $2. They always do a major Black Friday sale where they go on sale for 99 cents. My guess with Coastal Scents is that perhaps they're not releasing a lot of new things. This seems to be kind of a theme with a lot of these brands, I think. I mean, they've had the same hot pots on that website for like 3 or 4 years. I have yet to really see a new one. Maybe there are. I haven't checked too recently, but I used to check that website all the time because I was kind of addicted to buying those because they were so cheap. But, you know, after about a year, I pretty much had almost all the ones I wanted, and I wasn't seeing any new ones. And all of their other stuff, again, they're not really coming out with a lot of new palettes. Those huge 88 pans, those are not very popular anymore. I think they could use an update, and I really think that would help them out as well. But personally, the quality on the products I've tried from them is quite good. Alrighty, that is it for this video. I'm just kind of speculating on perhaps why some of these brands lost some popularity, at least on social media. I mean, I'm sure sales-wise, they're still doing great. Let us know if perhaps if you agree with some of these, or maybe if you have other theories, or maybe there's some other brands that you can think of that used to be very popular and not so much anymore. That is it. Thank you for watching.